We got a huge matchup coming up on the left side of the bracket. Italy just defeats Belgium to advance, and then Spain marks their place into the semifinals. Thomas, I mean, I just want to get your reaction to what we've seen from those two teams so far. Italy's really looked like the most dominant team, in my opinion. Lorenzo Insigne has been exceptional for Italy as an offensive threat. He hits a great curled shot to give him a lead there. But it's also been a story about Spain, who's been winning games. They've been doing job. They've had a little close calls, especially in extra time, 2 straight games. But there's a lot there, but it's going to be a great matchup with these two teams. And I just want to get your thoughts on that, which is going to be coming up.
Well, first of all, Mike, we're both Italian, so we have no reason to not root for the Italians to win. And secondly, the joke with the Italian national team, and this has been like a thing, is that they just play until they're 50. But they love to keep their teams together. You know, you had Andrea Pirlo, Marchisio for a long time with Chiellini and all those boys, and Gigi Buffon. But now this is a very different Italian team. You have Lorenzo Insigne, who, on all honesty, plays like a FIFA glitch. Like, he doesn't just seem like a normal player. He just runs around the pitch like a crazy person because he's that good speed. Ciro Immobile, and you've got Barella, the pasta. I call him the Pasta Man. I think that's a funny nickname for him, the Pasta Man. But this Italian team has just been rejuvenated with the boost of youth and energy, and I love it. I honestly do think that it's serving them well. You still have Giorgi Chiellini in the back with Bonucci. Of course, they're the elder statesmen, and they're kind of leading the whole thing. But like you said, the Italians have just been crushing everyone. They beat Belgium 2-1, and Belgium is a really good team. Now, I know that there's a lot of talk around Eden Hazard. Is he still in shape? I still think he's a little fat, but that's a discussion for another day. Kevin De Bruyne, Romelu Lukaku. I mean, they've got a tremendously talented team, but the Italians they were simply better. And you had goals from Insigne and Barella, the Pasta Man. So I like the Italians a lot. I like the way that they play. I liked how they've redone their team, renovated it a little bit. And Gigi Donnarumma in goal. They continue this theme with Gigi's in the net with Buffon, and now you got Donnarumma back there, and they're both gigantic human beings. So trying to get past them is a task in and of itself. But to switch to Spain's side of things, I mean, it's a very strange Spain team, Mike. I think we can agree. You know, they don't see Sergio Ramos, who I kind of thought would be in that lineup versus Switzerland, but they struggled through it. And you still have Sergio Busquets, Jordi Alba, Koke. Like, they're still in there, still kind of the staples of that Spanish team. But if you're having trouble beating Switzerland, who is probably not as talented as Spain should be, you know, that raises concern for me. I think the Italians got this. I think there's no reason they don't beat Spain. I think if they do, I'm not going to say it's going to be an onslaught, but it'll definitely be like a 2-1, 1-0 kind of game. So I'm going to roll with the countrymen. I'm rolling with the Italians here.
Yeah, I think Italy is really the favorites here. The question coming into this tournament is, where were they going to get their goals from? The defense is always sound with Italy, but the offense was of concern. Lorenzo Insigne, Immobile, those are relatively unproven commodities, especially on this stage. But they've been anything but. They've proven that they are the goal scorers that we thought they were from their seasons in Serie A. So you can't be worried about them anymore. And you also have to look at the defenders. I mean, look at Giorgio Chiellini. Look at Leonardo Bonucci. I mean, these guys are still two of the best center backs in all football. I mean, I want to pull a tweet from Bastian Schweinsteiger. He tweeted out that these are the two best center backs in the world, to summarize his tweet. That's what he basically said. They are still the two best. And you can look at that saying that they've been in there for so long. They've really been there with that old group, Andrea Pirlo, Claudio Marchisio, like you said. And now they're developing these young guys that kind of handing the baton to them. And it's really remarkable to see that these two older guys match with these younger group, like you mentioned, is making for really an Italian team that feels like the team of destiny. I mean, they beat that Belgium team that was considered their golden era. I mean, they have Kevin De Bruyne. He's 2019-2020 midfielder of the year in Premier League. You have Romelu Lukaku, who really made a renamed himself in this series. He had been forgot about after leaving the Premier League, but he's reaffirmed himself as a top goal scorer. Eden Hazard was in and out of this entire tournament, dealing with health issues and fitness issues. But, I mean, his brother Thorgan Hazard was electric for them. So this was the team. They were the number one ranked team in the world by FIFA. So when you defeat a team like that, especially Italy, who did it pretty convincingly, I mean, the only goal they suffered was off a penalty, and I mean a clear penalty, but that's the only goal they're suffering. And this defense is completely sound. And they're 32 games unbeaten with their new coach. This is the team to beat, and there's nothing to be but impressed by what they've done. I mean, the only real area of concern you have is no Spinazzola, who was phenomenal for them in that game against Belgium, a clear difference maker. But he's detrimental if he's not going to be with them for this game against Spain. They'll be able to recover. They're going to find someone that will be able to fill that void he leaves, but it's still a loss nonetheless. You got to think they're the favorites against Spain. Spain doesn't really have anybody that jumps out of you. They have a lot of older guys. You mentioned Busquets. Juan Mata is still with them. But, I mean, they had trouble scoring on Switzerland. I mean, Summer looked absolutely fantastic for them for Switzerland in the net. So I'm not sold on Spain. I think it's going to be a little tough because any team with championship pedigree is going to be tough to beat. But I think Italy's clearly the team that is going to be the favorites in this game and then heading forward into the final, whoever they play.
I think you make a good point losing Spazzarola. I mean, anytime you lose a good fullback in soccer, it just kills you because you lose a lot of depth out on the flanks. You lose more opportunities to cross into the box, maybe get a header in or two. Sometimes those fullbacks take corner kicks, and those could be maybe your only guy that takes it. So losing him is huge. But remember earlier in the show, I said, don't underestimate the power of old people. Remember I said that earlier in the show? Yeah, don't underestimate the power of Giorgi and Leonardo Bonucci, okay? Because, like you said, Bastian Schweinsteiger put it best. I wouldn't say that they're the best, but I think of a duo, and in terms of smarts, I don't know if you can find any duo that's better than those two. And they've been in every different sort of scenario with the Italian team, all different sort of teammates. They've been to World Cups. They've won championships with their clubs and with the Italian team. So they know what it takes to win. And I think they're going to rely on that. And like you said, for Spain, they have trouble scoring. And it's an older team. I said, again, don't underestimate the power of old people. But Spain is just this weird youthism with old people kind of running around still doing stuff. I mean, I don't know. They just look a little blah to me against Switzerland. But the Italians, I think they've got the offensive thing figured out between Immobile and Lorenzo Insigne. I think that's enough to kind of get you past Spain. And then whoever they play in the final, of course, which is probably, I think it'll be England, but I think they can get the job done. They've got enough on the offensive front, and defensively they're rocks, and they got to find a way to get past the loss of Spazzarola. But anything can happen, I think, in this next game versus Spain.
Yeah, I think anything can happen, but I mean, if Italy is able to win, which is probably the likelihood that they would move past the Spain team, they're looking at a potential matchup with either a Denmark team or an England team. These are two teams that we will most likely see Italy play. Now, if Italy makes the finals against England, that will be in Wembley. So that changes it a little bit. I mean, England is a different team in Wembley. So I think that's really interesting to know with the home fans around England. Honestly, Italy will have their support there, but that is going to be dominated by England fans. That's going to be tough for them to be. I mean, we saw what England did to Germany. I mean, that was a great game. And it is clear that this England team is not what we've seen in past national tournaments. I mean, Raheem Sterling is the best player in this team by far. You can say what you want about Harry Kane. He was great in the Premier League, but he's never really proven himself in the national stage. He only has one goal in this Euro tournament. It's really Raheem Sterling who is the guy for this team. And that defense, that back three for them, talk about Stone is a great defender. I mean, Kyle Walker, amazing. Maguire, this is a good back three that is really putting up clean sheets left and right. And then on the wing back side, you've got Luke Shaw and you've got Trippier. I mean, these are a good defensive sound. It's just the offense that's got to come together for England. So that's the only real question against Italy. If England shows their offense and are able to put one past, it's going to be a tough game because this English defense is really good. There's a lot of questions there, but it's going to be really interesting to see. Now, there's also a lot of hypothetical will England make the final? Will Italy make the final? But that's what we do. We talk and we make hypotheticals and we see, what if? And that's probably the biggest what if. England, Italy would be a really intriguing final.